Okay, I'm gonna take a chance and go over this. Oh my God, yeah, they're all got their glamour shots up. Chicken Wing Candy, Daniel Nicole, she's looking really good. I really don't know where I saw her at. Nicole Tina, the one she had yesterday didn't appear to be a glamour shot, and she didn't look nearly as good as she did in this one. I think it was just the way she was slumped in. She was all curled up or whatever. Fire Dancer and Amaranth, they're all looking really, really good. Okay, here we got the thing launched up. Mic check, mic check, mic check. All right. I'm not doing the. I just don't have time to get it. I don't have my fishing cap on. Sorry. Um. Okay. Now the documentary I recommended yesterday. I disliked it. I finished watching it yesterday. I gave him a pass because at least in the one case they might not have known because I think they shot it before I think it's the James Webb's telescope. I think I was going by the old one, but I think it's the James Webb telescope. Uh, because they had found, that this was fairly recent, and I got a feeling that was shot before, but they found solar systems that predate, according to them, that predate the Big Bang Theory, and some of the stuff they were talking about, I understood that they had to go by scientific fact, and the other one they might not have heard of, and they might not even be true. I don't know, but I got them from sources I somewhat trust. But scientists have caught like either solar systems or big objects for us to be picking them up here that appear to be traveling faster than light. Um, make of that what you will. And so I thought it was just them trying to keep it real, and and they were fairly honest about that much. That hey, they have to. They're making educational videos. They're part of a grant, and I understand. You got to stick to known things. But then I got back and finished what. So that didn't the stuff I thought they were wrong on or might be wrong on. I didn't consider that big of a deal. And the when I got back to it after I was done streaming, sitting around watching it, um, then they started in on. They started making comments like, "Well, we almost have no evidence." Well, yeah, we do. We have eyewitness testimony, and just like courts, just like law enforcement, you have to judge it based on the credibility of the witnesses. I understand they got a scientific, and this is the thing. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he got basically dismissed, and I don't remember where he was, but he was talking about it. I think he was doing I think it was a video clip on YouTube, but he didn't realize he was making the fucking judge's point. Um, all they had was testimony. They didn't have any physical evidence, but they had witnesses. And he was, the jury was asked, the potential jury during the voir dire were asked if they could judge the case based solely on the evidence that was presented. And he said no, he couldn't go by eyewitness testimony because it's highly unreliable and blah blah blah. And then he got dismissed without with really not much fucking no back talk, nothing. Just, oh well, thank you, yeah, there's the door. and he didn't understand that that was exactly the right thing for the jury for the judge to do because they've got a different standard. You've got court standard, judicial standard, legal standards, and then you've got scientific standards. And again, there was something I was watching. I am gonna probably do this one. There is it's free. It's on. I think it's on Tubi. It's TMZ. It's like Revelations or something like that, and it's basically Jeremy Corbell going over the witnesses that had come forward, David Graeber, and the other two, David Grutch, maybe not Grutch, Favor, I think, and I forget the other guy's name, but they had the three witnesses, and this was the last year sometime that testified, and it's him going over that. That was really good. It's a three-part thing. I don't know, but if don't wait for me. If you got, it's free. It's Tubi. Go and check it out. That one I watched completely. But and this is the thing the guy doesn't understand. Yeah, we have scientific standards, and maybe we can, maybe we can't. Um, because we might be dealing something with so far beyond us. Like we might have to learn just so we can figure out how to test it. And that's the sad thing about it. It was something Lou Elizondo said when he was asked about Skinwalker Ranch. He goes, I can't really talk about that because I haven't really been that. He didn't want to talk about something he didn't know. That is a thing that many people on the internet could benefit from his wisdom. But he did say, he goes, the one thing he did suggest is that they're doing their study, and he made some comment about they might not be the smartest end of the equation. And it was backed up by the military. He's a former colonel. I believe he was in the Army, might have been Air Force, but the guy's got like 2 or 3 degrees, and none of them sounded like underwater basket weaving. I mean, so it sounds like he's a smart guy. I can't remember his name. One of the characters in The Men Who Stare at Goats was based on him. Men That Stare at Goats. It's say what you want. I don't know, but it's supposed to be based on an actual government program, and these guys were staring at goats trying to kill it with the mind, and they were working on, again, I don't know, even in the movie they never developed everything they were working on, but the Men That Stare at Goats, they were working on killing goats with their mind. They were working at traveling through solid matter or whatever. uh it was some weird shit. It was some absolutely weird shit. And I'm trying to, but yeah, he's this guy is based off of one of the characters in that. One of the characters in that movie is based on him. I mean, loosely. I don't know, but it just, hey, that's a good way to start a conversation at a party. Yeah, I'm the fucking spook who who was featured in $1 million. But like he was on, and I don't remember if it's like early when he was there when Bigelow bought the ranch, Skinwalker Ranch. Because they asked him, oh, you were here early on with Bigelow. He goes, I was there the day he bought it. And you gotta understand, the people that worked for Bigelow, they basically would not set foot on that ranch again because of the shit that had happened to them or the shit they had seen happen to others. And so like and he came on like video, but he wouldn't set foot. And I don't know what changed his mind. I really don't. Maybe he had something happen and he figured, and I don't know, but maybe he had something happen to him and he figured, well, if staying off the ranch ain't gonna protect me, I might as well take a trip. And but I don't remember if it was early on when he was only appearing by video conference, or when he was actually coming back on. But he listened to him, and they told him what they'd been working on and whatnot. And they said something that kind of sparked this response. He goes, you're still under the impression that you're in charge." And he goes, "There's an it." And he put his hands up. "There's an it, and it is in charge here." And I've kind of said that because there was one with Dr. Travis Taylor. He was back home in Alabama, and he had access to the computers and the cameras and shit like that. And something happened while he was there, and I don't want to get it wrong, but something happened when he was in Alabama. So he logged on and he got on the cameras. And then when he got back, now this they showed in the episode, and it was the day, the time, the date, timestamp were right, and Eric pulled it up because he wanted to see what the weather was like, and it was all normal weather. And he goes, "This is not what I saw in Alabama." And again, they haven't really talked on it. And then one of the guys from, oh God, if I remember right, it was Travis Taylor had gone to Washington to report like the transmission that he was getting there, and he got offered a job working for Arrow or whatever the new name was, or whatever, A-Tip or whatever. Uh, he got offered a job working there as the scientific director or whatever, and that was something he couldn't tell everybody at first because it was secret. And that guy, he came out. I think it was last season. He came out, and they wanted him to kind of guide them around the ranch. And he said that there was a time where there were four of them on the Bigelow Ranch, and they all saw something, but they all saw something different. And so that's indication that backs up what Lou said and backs up what this colonel said. Um, how can you trust anything you see? Whether it's a reading, whether it's I mean, this thing, you're only seeing what it wants you to see, and you don't even know if it's true. I mean, because he saw something at home, and then when he got, now either it was the camera was lying to him when he was there that day, or his camera down in Alabama remotely was lying to him. But he saw him for both places. He's like, "That's not what I saw." And this other guy is saying, "Well, yeah, they were like, because what it was, they saw like a symbol or something, and like one of them saw a circle, one of them saw a square, one of them saw a triangle. There were either three or four total people, and they all saw a different symbol. So again, I'm not trying to say, maybe they're lying. I don't know, but if they're not lying, if they're not telling a fib, um, something made them see. Now, maybe, and like that one, it could have been it was affecting the camera, but that one, they were there. It had to be affecting their memory or their eyesight. That's some pretty high level shit. Um, anyways, but yeah, he got dismissing, eyewitness testimony. Well, now we're starting to get into the location of personal professional debunker, and I can say that, if that's the case, then we have to let everybody out of jail that was convicted with with visual evidence by testimony only. You know, if it's good enough for a court, I think it should be good enough for to have a discussion on it. And if we can't trust anything anybody says, then we should just open up the floodgates and let everybody out of jail. And it's gonna fuck you a lot on police testimony. Uh, but that was the thing he was saying, and he went in and this is where I shut it off. He brought out Mick West, everybody's favorite, the History Channel show. Hey, oh, I can't think of the name. It's the one I don't know. Maybe it didn't come back this year, but it was on. It might have been replaced by Dan Aykroyd's new show, but it used to be on with uh, it used to be on with Captain Kirk, William Shatner, and I liked it. But they might as well change their tag. Just send, hey, if you got something you haven't seen, you got something on a video or something, send it in. We'll have Mick West shit on it as fast as we can. Because and again, some of the stuff, especially later on, I personally complained, and I'm hoping other people. I can't imagine I'm having that big of an influence, but he did get better a little bit as the season wore on. Because I'm like, you guys got no credibility. Other shows, and regardless of who makes them, they do this shit where if they're gonna debunk it, they try and recreate it, and then if they can create it, then it's debunked, and if they can't recreate it, then it's not debunked. And I gotta admit, it really seemed like Mick West, because it might have been the next season. He actually did that in one of them. He tried to recreate it, and he didn't recreate it. He recreated it a little bit, but not much. And it was like because there was this alien show, or no, not alien, ghost show, and that's what they did. They would travel out, and they did their best to get like what camera do we need, and then they would go and they'd see a video, and then they would try and recreate it. And it's something my brother was watching. He watched it, but I watched one episode of it, and they were. Oh, it was something like Phantom of the Opera or something like that, or something in a theater fucking up. And they tried to recreate it. They couldn't even come close. Kind of like Mick West did. Um, maybe he's onto it, maybe he isn't, but he's got their resources. Um, he's got the show's resources, and he's got professional stuff. He used to make video games or work at a video game company, and he couldn't. It didn't even look close to me, anyways. So I would say, in my opinion, he didn't debunk it, and uh, but and this is the other thing that gets me is he was all over the place for reasoning, like he brought up Rendlesham Forest and God, I can't remember. He brought up like three, maybe four cases, and he he said you couldn't trust these witnesses. They couldn't be trusted if they didn't have hard proof. But yet then he believes the army or the government, and these are people who weren't even there when it happened. They wrote the report. And it's like, wait a minute. I thought you said, wait a minute. If these guys got no witnesses and these guys weren't even there, then it's an open question, right? Right? That's the way it should be. But he was treating government reports like they were the fucking holy quest. It was chiseled on fucking stone tablets and brought down by the fucking from the fucking mountain by Moses. And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's not kosher. And then the next minute, he's he's because he's sitting there. Oh, you got to believe the government. Got to believe the government. And then this is one of the last things I watched. He started comparing the Go Fast, the Tic Tac, and the Gimbal video. And then he brought Mick West out to shit on these government reports, and the government said they're real. We don't know what they are. And wait a minute, you can't have it both ways. You can't accept the government report when it favors what you want, and then shit on it with Mick West when it doesn't fit. So yeah, if you want to go watch it, you can go watch it. But I was completely wrong. I give that two thumbs down. Uh, I did. I thought it was good when I started, and I thought it was maybe some but I just yeah, they brought that out. One thing I want to talk about. First of all, call to action. If you get a hold of anybody you vote for, everybody you vote for, maybe. Well, how about we legalize assisted suicide? That's all every now and then just keep in touch, and every now and then I'll go into it a little bit more. But please legalize assisted suicide. I watched my mom die of hospice, and I don't even know if she'd used it. I'm not saying I should have been. I wouldn't have wanted to anyways. But I'm not saying I should have had any choice in the matter. But she should have. And I know how my dad would have been. He talked about committing suicide. Oh, you'll just walk out in the field with a shotgun, blah blah blah. And I don't know what my mom would have done, but when she was offered chemo and it was only going to buy her a couple more months, maybe, um, she turned that down. When there was zero chance that she was going to be able to be cured by it, she didn't do it. So I just think that Dr. Kevorkian was right, and just get that legalized. This is something I find interesting. It's just one plane that's been landed, and I cannot I cannot make this up. This sounds like it's just fucking nuts. But there was a fucking plane that there was like a door when the thing was made. There was a door, and then they decided that they weren't going to use it, so they put a plug in the door. It used to be an opening where they could have like an extra runway or fucking have the scaffolding from inside the airport come out to you walk out to get on the plane. They So they put the plug in. Well, that thing blew out in a. it just blew out. Nobody was sucked out the window, but could you imagine the fucking shorts of everybody nearby? It's like pucker mode engaged. Their fucking asshole must have clamped down. If you had a piece of coal in there, you might have got a diamond out of it. And oh my god. Well then, initially they were reporting that the bolts must came loose, and then this is where they're at. They're speculating that maybe the thing was never even bolted into place. it was just installed in there. And I got thinking, now again, people are gonna lie. I can only tell you what I saw, and it wasn't my team. So I mean, I might not be completely right on this, but when I started on the door line down in Indiana, there was the team next to me, and um, they had this job and it wasn't my team, so I can't. But it was inside the door panel. They put the door panel. They put the doors on. They put the door panels on my team, and this was the team before it. And they had this job that you and a job doesn't even exist anymore. But I don't think at least I think they got rid of it when they at least when they got rid of the when they went to the new job, the new trucks. But it was the trucks they were making like 2010, 2011. I forget. It was near the end there that they changed models. 2016 or something like that, or maybe 2000, but it was 2016, give or take a year or two, is when they changed to the new model. They extended the door line. They went from 4 teams to 10, and but they had this job on the team next to mine, and the fucking gun didn't fucking work properly. Uh, they This gun heated up. You could almost cook with it. You could at least warm food up with it. It'd be used so much that it would get hot. And oh god, the gun was hooked up to air proofing. They had a name for it, and I can't remember what it was. 'Cause I didn't have any on my team. But it was hooked up to air proofing. If the thing fucked up, it would automatically put the error in the computer. If you didn't clear it, it would put an error in the computer, and it would stop the line. That old Saturn commercial with the poor honest fucking line worker. The one the line stops down, that shows you can come in and get it repaired, and then the fucking defect never leaves it. Yeah, that was something they did for TV. I can tell you personally that they ship shit like it was free to go down the line. They just didn't get, that was something they did for TV. It was something to give you guys feeling. That's something they give to the ISO board so that they can feel good about it and they can sell their But I can tell you, in my experience, any of the places I worked at, that was not true. That was just not true. And they had shit going on. And the whole point of it is, you were supposed to do this. You stop the line. To some extent, you were supposed to be able to fix it. It had to be like an easy fix or something that was possible to be fixed. You could keep it running until you couldn't finish a job with it. Like any of the stuff that was up the line, you could let it go. You could fix it until it got to the door panel job, because the door panel would cover all that shit up. So it had to be fixed. That's the way the rules were. And you also had to stay with it. You couldn't leave the defect. You couldn't leave the defect unattended. Otherwise, you had to stop the line. That was another thing with it. I think that's the way it was. At least I think that's the way it was. And otherwise, it had to be put into the computer. And this way, you cut down on the ability for a defect to get out of this system, to get out of the plant, to go to the customer. And I did one thing where I told about this job I had in town here before they closed my plant. That there were some hoses that blew off on somebody who worked for the company. This happened to like a big dog up in Detroit, or a plant manager. So we had this fucking lame ass box that you'd throw the clips in, they'd weigh them and then blow them off, and then what would happen is the thing would go work for a while, and at least once a day or once every other day, it would just all these clips would just weigh on that thing, and then you finally get it to stop because there'd be like 50 fucking clips on the scale, and then you'd have to get the TC to fucking clean it off. Everybody I worked for, every time we got a new foreman or somebody new to that area, they'd see it and it looked like a joke. it looked. I mean, it looked like they saw it and they were looking around. Like, am I being punked? They waited. They were waiting for what's his name to come around the corner and go, yeah, you've been punked. And they go, yeah. And they go, what's that there for? And we go, oh well, when we break these clips off, we put them on there. It weighs them, and then it blows them off and clears it. If that doesn't clear it, then it shuts the line down. And they go, that's stupid. Yeah, it is. And they go, I'm gonna get rid of that. And the first time that somebody said that, I took them serious. And then I told my team leader about it, and he goes, "Yeah, that fucking thing ain't going anywhere." And I go, "Why?" He's the one who told me that it blew off the line. The hose blew off on somebody from corporate. He goes, "Yeah, that fucking thing ain't going anywhere. Trust me." And so then after that, and we didn't go through foreman all the time, but they'd rotate and other things, and that was like an area that they started new foreman on. If they couldn't handle that, they didn't get to go to a good. They didn't get to go to a good area. And I'd be like, oh yeah, next time somebody come like, man, that's fucking stupid. I'm gonna get on that and get rid of that. Hey, you go for it. And then you wait about 3 weeks, because I tried it a couple times. They needed time. You had to give them about 2 to 3 weeks. And then when you'd ask them, you're like, hey, when you getting rid of this and getting us something that works? You'd hear, they didn't really want to tell you the truth. They were, yeah, found out we can't get rid of that, and that's all they would say. They literally would not say anything else. And oh my God, that was entertainment. But this thing here, you could cook off it. In fact, when I'm not making this up. I swear. You're either gonna believe me or you're not, but I'm not making this up. There was this hose, and I don't know. It was because I don't know what all the shit was, but there was this hose, and I swear it might not have been quite this big around, but it was roughly this big around or a little bit smaller, and they had all this shit for the system, and there were two guns on that job, if I remember right. And it was all, you see, basically the guns would stay together. That actually is a good thing. I think there were two guns on that job, and this was all the bullshit they need. And that one for error proofing, that had some hardware on it. You had some data cables in that. And when they fucking put the line in new for the new job, and maybe they were retroactively or preemptively getting ready for the new job. Maybe that's why there was so much shit in there. But it was hot before, and but they hooked it all up. They got it running because they moved that team too. I got moved all the way to the end of the line, so I used to be right next to that team. I was now like 50 yards. I was like a half a football field or more away from that team, I think. And so there were things that happened, like when they had a problem, I could fix it, and I was right there. And then I could go get their torque gun and fix it. And the thing was heating up. The cable, it was rigid originally. Well, it would fucking start melting. It was like nice and hot. And then what they did is they hooked an air line into the system to cool it off. Well, this gun would overheat. And I want to say there was this little bracket that they bolted in there. And I don't remember what it does. It covered up, as far as I know, it just covered up some of the inside door. It kept stuff from coming out or whatever. And I think it was, I can't remember if the door bolted onto it, like the door panel. I don't remember if it bolted onto it or not. But it was on a torque monitor. Whatever its purpose was, it was, and I think It was either I think there were 3 bolts that went in there. Just in that, it was either 3 or 5. It's between 3 or 5 that went into just that bracket that they put on. And then there was one other bolt that they tied, and I don't remember what it was, but there was one other bolt that they did with that. And the ones that they put on that bracket, that's what they were torque monitoring. And and the other one did not need to be torque monitored. Well, they put it on the torque monitor. And what would happen was it was set to register 6 bolts or 5 bolts or whatever the amount of bolts are. It's been a while, and I got some memory issues. But it so like if that thing didn't register all the bolts, it would shut the line down. And this was going on by the time I got there, where it was going on, and everybody knew it. You know, the fucking team knew it, the operators knew it, and what they did was absolutely wrong. If you know, and when I was covering the job, it wasn't my job. I was not the expert on it. I was, fucking covering people for bathrooms or stuff like that. I just did the job the way everybody else did it. But it wasn't right. And what would happen is when you got that, when the light would go off, you just look, and if you weren't missing a bolt, you just double hit a bolt, and then it would register it. And or they would double hit one, and then down where I was at, the guys putting on the panels, they'd notice them. They were pretty good about it. I don't think they missed too many, if any at all. And then I would put a bolt in it, and I would go get the torque monitor, and I would check my torque on that one. But they did this. And in my experience, I can tell you why they did it. Because when they moved me down the line, and I was like a football field away, I had to shut the line off because my guys couldn't put the door panel on until we got that bolt fixed. And then I would shut the line down, and I would go up and get that torque monitor, and I would come down and check the torque. I got yelled at. I mean, my fucking foreman she was a fucking child. She was a childish fucking person. She fucking screamed at me because she goes, "What are you down for?" And I go, "I gotta check the torque on it." And she fucking flipped out. Well, then she got mad at me because I put it in the computer that it needs to be checked. And I eventually I got written up for putting stuff in the computer that needed to be fixed. And I talked to the one shift leader, and I respect her. I had a lot of respect for her, but she was trying to talk me out of it. She didn't really understand the situation. And I go, well, she was asking, she came up first thing, hey, what is it? She didn't come up screaming at me like a fucking child or whatever. And she came up and wanted to know what it was. And I go, well, it comes down with this bolt missing, or one of these bolts missing, and I have to put it in. And I told her which one it was this time, and it was the one that really, as far as I know, didn't need to be checked. But in theory, did not need to be checked. And she goes, "Well, that's not a critical torque." I go, "Well, you guys put it on a torque gun." And I go, and the reason I know I have to check it because it's on a torque gun, it's on a torque monitoring gun, is because I was taught that in my training. And I go, "You were the one that taught me you were the one that were running the class." And then she got kind of quiet. She's like, "Oh yeah, you're right," but she didn't yell at me. It was all professional. And but that was the thing, and there was something else that happened, and right now today I cannot remember it, but I wrote to the president of the CEO of the company, and because I couldn't get anything done locally, and I told him, I go, this kind of shit right here, I know what it was. It was when they were having that issue with the IP panel over on my last job when I was there. But I go, this is how I go, because there was this thing, and I don't think I'm giving anything away. I think this was public knowledge. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But GM had this issue where, and again, I'm not making this up. It should be news. I don't remember what year it was from, but GM had this issue where their ignition switches were coming out while the car was running going down the road. The weight of the keychain was like fucking pulling it out. And they went through and that's a whole, you can go look that up. But I told her, I go, this is how. I mean, yeah, granted, this one is not that much serious. The same thing. This thing here, if it might cause you some weakness in a collision, maybe. If it does what I think it does, with the torque check that they require and all that, I think it was critical. But it wasn't gonna, it wasn't something that was gonna blow out while going down the road. It wasn't gonna cause the door to blow out while it's going down the road. But I go, this is how that thing happens. It's just pure laziness and, the inability to follow the fucking rules. It becomes a pattern, and then pretty soon you're fucking doing it all the time. It's the same way. Like, you got cops. Is it really a problem if you help your friend get out of a speeding ticket? No, it's not. But then that gets you used to that mentality, and pretty soon you're trying to help them hide a body and cover it up, or and it just it's this thing, and I just thought, oh my god, I bet you it started out small. I seriously, I bet you it started out, you're like, oh well, we're just gonna skip the torque check and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot, and then boom, you've got a fucking door blowing off as you're going down the fucking jet stream, and oh my god, but that really fucking did it. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so don't. I don't think. I think I finished up, but just in case, yeah, that video I told you about yesterday. Uh, the God, what the fuck is it? I'll get the name for it. Uh, yeah, the UFO movie they don't want you to see. I don't want you to see it either. It's a piece of shit. Um, but yeah, they just fucking 1 minute they're telling you gotta believe everything from the government, and then when they got something from the government they don't like, then we'll send in the cavalry. We're gonna this is in the movie. If it was a John Wayne movie, they'd send in the Seventh Cavalry. We'll send in Mick West to fucking shit all over it. Okay, now. The video that I'm going to talk about, it's episode of Hangar 1. It's in the first season, I think. And it's basically talking about, I'm just a few episodes, cops versus UFOs. And he's apparently, allegedly, a police detective, and he doesn't want to. He's a retired police detective, but he still doesn't want to be named. But he makes the comment: if you spot a new UFO, you're not going to call MUFON. You're not going to call, the Air Force. You're going to call the police. And I think for the most part that if you're going to call anybody, I think for the most part that's true. Uh, um, and he kind of went into, when police encounter this shit, they take it kind of seriously because it freaks them out. And I just want to put in, if I can find it, I will look. I can't. I don't. This is back in the 80s and the 90s when I saw this. Maybe I've got it wrong, but it seems to me that there was one of those sightings or one of those other shows like it, where they were talking about UFOs and that. Well, they uncovered an FBI or a fire department that had actual how to deal with UFOs in their fucking instruction book. and they were talking to people from the police or from the fire department, and I got a feeling what it was. It was something, if it's true, and these guys were talking to the police department. They seemed pretty serious, and I think what it was intended to be was a something secret. And this fire department said, "Fuck it. If we're supposed to do it, we're gonna put it in there. We're gonna put it right in our manual. There's gonna be no ands, ifs, or buts about it. We want everybody trained on it. When something happens, we want them to know." And it was like fucking Mayberry. It seems to me it was like fucking Mayberry. So maybe it was a good way to pass the day. But they put that in there. And and while I'm at this, I kind of talked about it maybe yesterday. Uh, I actually had a UFO story. I didn't see one, but I was in my 20s. I'm not even sure I was old enough to drink yet, and I was going down to get lottery tickets because the uh, the Mega Millions was not something you could buy in my state, and I live right on the border, so I could drive. It was basically the same if I was going to go to the movies or if I was going to go to the grocery store. It was the same distance, you know. It's just that one was on the other side of town from where I lived, and the other one was in another state. It was really not that far, and I just go down there when it was real big. I'd go down, and I never hit it, unfortunately. Uh, but he when I was going down there, I flipped on the radio, and oh my God, there was like cops from like 3 or 4 counties at that time that had been following a UFO, and fucking honest cops, with pretty good cops. Uh, and it was middle of the day. It wasn't in the it was like late afternoon, but it wasn't like supper time yet. It was like 3, 4 in the afternoon or whatever, and I'm like, holy shit! And they had it. They would break in every now and then, and I think there was a short period where they were like just nonstop about the UFO. They were getting the police on the phone. They were talking to him, and they for a while there they interrupted the radio programming so they could fucking just go with it. And that was the closest I've ever gotten, as far as I know. Now, if they secretly got me and fucking probed my anus or whatever, well then I don't know. I don't remember it. I'm blocking it all out. But oh my God, that was actually kind of cool. Uh, Now this one here, the first one they had, and I'm only going to cover a couple of them, and I'm not going into all the detail. So I don't. Some of the stuff on History Channel is available on YouTube. If you subscribe to subscribe, if you got the History Channel as something you can watch, you can probably log into their you can probably log into their app with your subscription cable whatever provider, and them are the best ways I know how to get it. And if it's on YouTube, because they've got a lot of shit, and they're fine pulling in their ads for it, pulling in the commercials for it. But I don't know if they got this one, but it might be on there. But yeah, I'm not going. I'm going into some detail, but I highly recommend you check out the whole thing. But it was in Portage County, Ohio, 1966. Two cops stop at night to check on abandoned car, and UFO talk had been on the radio all day, and this was like in the evening. Uh, they checked on the car. One cop suddenly had this feeling that he needed to look behind him. He looked behind him, and then he kind of like whoa, and he told his partner to turn and look at the UFO that he saw. Uh, Again, they're cops. You either believe them or not, I think these were, I don't think they'd make it up, especially because you go back and you look at the way they were treated. There was no advantage to them telling this story if it wasn't true. Uh, it wasn't. There was no upside to this. They were not treated well. They were treated like they were fucking nuts. And many cops, they left their job. They just couldn't handle it. Um, they called it in, were told to wait. They were sending backup. Well, they ignored that and they started pursuing it. And they were chasing it at like 100 miles an hour, and it was moving in. It was moving in on uh, moving into Pennsylvania, and it's the same type of deal. Pennsylvania, the cops there, again. So this is multiple jurisdictions, multiple counties, multiple states, and they all saw the same thing. And and when it got into Pennsylvania, 4 jets appeared. The cops received confirmation that the jets were there for the UFO. The UFO took off upwards at high speed. Sound familiar? This is the exact same thing you hear from Fravor and others. That these things, just they're fucking there, and then whenever whatever that is, they get done doing, they just, boo, they're gone. Um, and again, this was not junkies. These were not hillbillies at the fucking trailer park. These were multiple cops. If they thought if the dispatch thought they were if they didn't think they were real, the dispatch would have told them to come in and submit themselves to drug testing. Instead, they were sending backup. There was something about them calling in that they were believed, and uh, they gave the guy's name, and I didn't think I was going to be able to remember it, and I was typing enough for this, but the Air Force investigator, when he arrived, I guess it was the guy. He was in charge of Project Blue Book, or he was the second in charge, the XO of Project Blue Book. And when the Air Force investigator arrived and he asked one police officer to tell him about the mirage he saw, um, that's not an investigation. It's not. That's not an investigation. An investigation, you look at, because I mean, regardless of what you think of it, when you do an investigation, you have to look at everything. It's like science. You have to assume you know nothing, and you got to investigate it. And I'll get into this in a minute, but you got to follow all the leads. You gotta drill down. You got to just do everything you can on it. And this guy gets there, he's immediately thinking it's a mirage. And you can only come to one of two conclusions. Either he is there to shape the story, or he's just phoning it in. He's not there to investigate. He's just there to wrap this up. Whether it's laziness, incompetence, or malicious intent. You make of it what you will, but it's one of those. And the first story was that it was a communicate satellite. That was the first excuse that was given by the Air Force guy from Project Blue Book, is that it was a communication satellite. Well, that doesn't explain why it took off. And it doesn't explain why it's down in orbit where they could see it. And if it was if it was a satellite, it should be at best a blinking light in the sky. I don't think the police called dispatch because of a blinking light in the sky. I don't. I don't think 4 jets from the military showed up because it was a blinking light in the sky. Um, I just don't. And then by morning, it was the planet Venus that they were following, and it's like that again isn't supported by eyewitness. You've got somebody who was not there, was not a witness, and he's coming to the conclusion that it's Venus. And that was like it was like Roswell all over again. You know, first you got this lie, then you got this lie, then you got this lie, and police are trained more or less to detail what they see. You know, with some variation, but you know, these again, they've had training in how to detail stuff, and so none of it's adding up. And that one, I think they said something about that one there. The cover up didn't work. They did have to open an official investigation. I think that's the one that they were talking about that they did because it was just, you know, yeah, they you know, yeah, oh, it's a satellite or oh, it's Venus. Yeah, right. You wouldn't get, you know, cops from different states and different counties, and they were talking about all day on the morning. You know, all day they'd had since early morning they'd had talk about this. Well, you wouldn't see a satellite in daytime. You wouldn't see Venus in daytime. You know, there. Now, my brother was watching the show, and this is why I want to stress it. You know, with some variation, but my brother was watching this show. It was it was one of those murder mystery shows. I can't remember what it was called, but you had this woman in Iowa was killed, and her son was blamed. Uh, and I want to stress this out. I had seen something, and I'll be honest with you, it was something I watched. I didn't really take it too seriously, but it was something I watched, and it was a defense lawyer and a retired cop turned lawyer. They were having a discussion, and he didn't the defense lawyer did not know what the cop was going to say, the former cop was going to say. He just wanted someone on the other side. That's the alleged story. And he was making a case on why you don't talk to cops. And he went through and rattled on, like, he goes, you know, the cops, when they read your Miranda rights, they tell you anything you say can and will be used against you in court. He goes, there is nothing you can tell a cop that's going to help you out. And if you got an honest cop, yeah, if you tell them, then yeah, it's probably going to help. You know, it is. But he rattled through. He goes, you know, if you tell the cop, you know, you didn't do it, and all this other stuff, you give him evidence that you didn't do it, and he doesn't use that, you can't bring that up in court because it's hearsay. You know, it's not admissible in court. There's nothing you can tell a cop that is exonerating to you. There isn't. And he said the only thing that can be done with that information you give the cop is if it's useful to them, they can use it against you in court. And like he said, you know, if you talk to the cops and they ask you, well, were you anywhere near the crime? He goes, think about it. How often do you remember everything you did from like a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? And if you tell him no, I wasn't in that area, and then it turns out you were dropping off a movie rental or getting some food, well, he can use that you lied to him. And, I can. This is one I can use. There was a martial arts instructor that I'm aware of. He was explaining this. He goes, and just to give you the backstory, he was like, if you carry anything with you, you should really have like a second. You should have a legitimate secondary use for it. Like if you have a knife, you know, I use this to cut boxes, or sometimes I stop and fish, or I got this in case I got to cut a seatbelt off of somebody. That should be your primary reason for carrying it. Because he said, he goes, I hear everybody. You guys don't think I listen to you guys, but when I'm sitting at my desk at the school, or when I'm listening to people talk at seminars and that, they always talk about, I got my everyday carry. It's just a cheap one, and if something happens, I'll just throw it away. And he goes, you guys should really look up what the crimes associated with uh, destroying evidence, altering a crime scene. You just got to find out what you're involved in with what you're doing. I'm not trying to tell you to do anything, but in my experience, it's a bad idea. And he said it doesn't matter. He goes, I get called in all the time as a witness to or a subject matter expert for these court cases. And he goes, you don't know how many times I've seen a person clearly, you know, self-defense get made to look like a fucking fucking uh, Manson. You know, they just look like a fucking serial killer by a good lawyer. Because like if you go in there and you're like, oh well, yeah, I carried this to defend myself. Oh, so you had a premeditated thing to carry this to harm another person, and it just turns like, so that's why they used to sell those clubs with the tire checker on them, and that way again, and I didn't realize that, but yeah, okay, maybe there's some legitimacy to this. Well, he said, this lawyer on this thing, he said, yeah, you just don't want any. He cited at least one or more Supreme Court justices who said the same thing. You should not talk to the police, not in any way, shape, or form. And uh, this guy was trying to help him. Oh, and then when they went to the cop, he goes, "This might surprise everyone here, especially him, because I agree with everything he said." He goes, "Every state's got umpteen fucking laws. The federal government has tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000 laws." He goes, "There's no way you can know that you're not guilty of some crime." And he goes, "The average person, if I can get them talking, questioning them, there's very rarely am I going to find a person who's completely innocent." He goes, everybody speeds a little bit. I can probably find you in a case where you admit you speeded. You may be littered. I mean, there's just any number of things, and then that opens the door. It's like a gateway. He goes, I agree with you. He goes, as a detective, I was a detective when I was a cop, and he said, this is what he said. And he goes, you don't know how many times I had nothing on a suspect until I questioned him. And, and this guy here, he was trying to help him. He was trying to help the police detective or the police officer, and he was letting him know that he thought his mom was shot with a gun that they had on the house. It was like his dad's gun. He'd known about it his whole life. Well, they took that as, oh, he's guilty. Yeah, I'm sure. And again, if and it's a zero sum game, because I've never seen any. I've seen it the other way where they like, oh, can I search your car? No, not unless you got a warrant. Oh, you must. Oh, you're not helping us. You must be guilty. Well, this guy was helping him. You're guilty if you help him. You're guilty if you don't with some of these cops. And and then later, and this I think it came up in trial. They found his defense lawyer had found the son on video too far away from the scene of the murder to have done it. He was like an hour or two away by vehicle, and he was driving his farm vehicle or picking up feed or dropping off or whatever. And there's just no way that he could have done it. But see, these cops, they as soon as they got to questioning him, they zeroed in on him and they ignored everything else. They just ignored everything else. And 'cause that was the thing that the lawyer, and he had a good defense. I don't know if he was a public defender or not, but it sounded like that judge or that lawyer he had was on his game. He brought up these other people that they had found, and he goes, "Well, did you guys investigate any of them?" No, they had to admit they didn't want to do it, but they had to admit they didn't investigate anybody but him. And they clearly, I mean, now if he's guilty of hiring someone to kill his mom, well, gee, maybe if you'd investigated those other guys, maybe you'd have been able to find that, you know. And it was over in Iowa, probably some fucking town called Mayberry, and I really suspect maybe it was like John Benet Ramsey. The cops were just not up to the case. You know, they were maybe used to methamphetamines or something else, and they weren't able to handle a real crime. You know, because they didn't experience, so they didn't know how to handle them. Okay, now next case they talked about was Lonnie Zamora, April of 1964. I'm gonna probably pronounce this one Sacaro or something or other, New Mexico. Appeared to be late because of the recreation. Saw a UFO, followed it, and I think he called it in, but he was the only one there. And flames came out of the craft, and they shot it like it was a flamethrower, but it was like flames came out of the thing. So he reacted and fucked up, and just got away from it. And then the thing took off. And I don't know if it was the police that were investigating, but MUFON, major news like AP, Associated Press, API, I think. There were 3 or 4 major news sources that were all on scene, and amateur UFO people. But I think it was the police. When they arrived, they found 4 impressions from the landing craft, from the landing struts or whatever, on the site, and they found like some debris, like where they can see where it was flames that hit the sand and stuff that had landed on. And this was that same clown from. This is the same clown that was from Blue Book. Officer Blue Book report differs from the police observation. And this is again what this is the thing that we have seen time and time again. That one yesterday, that guy there. Now in this case, he would believe the Blue Book, wouldn't believe the police officers. Now if Blue Book was doing the wrong thing, they didn't bring Mick West to shit on him. You know, there's just no it's just they pick the story they like and that's the one they're gonna go with. So there's nothing to it. It's just bullshit. But officer or the official Blue Book report differs from the police observation. Lonnie left the police force from alleged harassment, and it sounds like it was from the investigators and it was from the UFO. And yeah, there's a lunatic fringe in the UFO. That's something Corbell was talking about in that thing I watched yesterday. And then I told you about the sand, but there was anomalies were found in the soil by a UFO investigator. They found I don't want to go into, if you want to know, go watch the original thing, but they found some anomalous readings in the soil, And that's all I want to say on that one. But that's and again the cops. Some of the cops in the last one they quit. Lonnie Zamora he quit and went and became a manager of a fucking gas station or something. There's no incentive for these people back then to come forward with this shit. They were good guys, and then they paid the price. What do they say? The no good deed goes unpunished. That they're living proof of it. Uh, Patches. I'm a, and then the last one they had was in 1978. I think it was McGuire Air Force Base. The deputy director of intelligence. They gave me his name, but I am really bad with names. Don't know how to spell them. Don't know how to remember them. I can't blame that. It's gotten worse since I've got this thing wrong, but I've always had problems with names. It's worse, but you know, it is what it is. But I've always been bad with names. I remember faces and nicknames. If I give you a nickname, I'm probably gonna nowadays I don't know, but if I give you a nickname, I could remember that. Remember faces really good. Sometimes voices. Uh, but he was the deputy director of Air Force of Intelligence on this McGuire Air Force Base. On January 18th, 1978, he came on the base and was told by it might be like a first sergeant or something. I don't know. I don't understand Air Force. I know I'm more familiar with Marine and Army designations, but I think he was the staff. He was like the whatever the sergeant, the top sergeant. I think he was that for the base, or he was the sergeant in charge of the duty station or something. But he was told by the sergeant that an alien had been shot by an MP. Again, that guy I watched yesterday, I'm sure he's got some extravagant way where he can just shit on this guy for serving his country. But he said the sergeant reported that an alien had been shot by an MP. The MP reported the incident. The sergeant did not believe it at first. That's it's not like this guy was gung ho. Oh my God, aliens, boing, and then going to report it, fucking running around like, oh my God, ET's here, ET's here. He was like just skeptical. He didn't believe it, so he told the MP just to go on and he'd take it from there because the alien had come on the base, and when it got reported up, and I don't know if this was I assume this, I don't know if Blue Book was still going on then, but the military sent like a unit to take charge of the situation, and the sergeant was surprised to see the military sent a unit that was specially trained in how to deal with this. Like it was not the first time. It was his clear opinion that this was not the first time that they'd been called. The way they were acting, they seemed a little too familiar with what they needed to do, and it kind of freaked him out. And then the men in the service, they were detained for days, and then when they got done, some of the men were transferred. Does that sound familiar? That is some of the exact same shit that whistleblowers testified to Congress. The one guy referred to it as administrative terrorism. Members of Congress have said the same thing. Recent, people that are sitting in office right now, they have reported the same thing, that they've had other people come forward and tell them about this administrative terrorism. And I don't know, but it's the same old shit. And it's the same stuff that's going on today. And and that was the thing they pointed out. They go, civilians are treated at least a little better, but the military, the way they're talking, there's whistleblowers that have come forward to Congress. They are saying the exact same thing. You know, uh, even with Congress's action to make sure that there's no reprisals, these guys get interrogated. You know, whether it sounds a lot like might be a little better, but it sounds a lot like this where they're basically interrogated for days on end. They're not allowed to see anybody, and I don't know. I I don't know if we're gonna get to it. I don't know if we're gonna, but I really think that we need to get to the end of this. That's why I really hope the president works with Chuck Schumer and that other guy that's co-sponsored the bill, and get his bill passed as intended. And they also, in the short term, need to pass like uh, they need to pass like a bulletproof, an airtight bulletproof thing where anybody that deals with the government, whether they get material, whether they get I mean, even people that aren't in the defense contract, if you're getting anything from the government, tax breaks, special treatment, fucking contracts, you name it, you got to be liable for FOIA requests, and not just just what you say so. No, everything in that company has to be available for FOIA requests. And if they don't want to, guess what? The next one will come along. There will be a company. You'll have somebody that ain't getting shit from the government. They'll be like, well, we're not doing anything wrong. Yeah, we'll gladly give you FOIA requests. You can give us that money. You give us that special treatment. You give us that, you'll have a lot of these small companies that'll be taking these places if they don't want to do that. Uh, but it just, and you gotta do something to get us back. You gotta give this country back to we the people and not the corporations. You just got to. And then hopefully, so that's the thing. Rate your members of Congress. Maybe rate the president, and let them know that you need that. You need Chuck Schumer's amendment passed. Seriously, we do, because I don't really know how to say it, but it's like I'm not gonna harp on it, but I firmly believe that, like, that senator that's got in trouble, and he might have even done it, and Hunter. Now that I think is bullshit, because the way some people have talked, he wouldn't be getting charged if his dad wasn't Biden. And and this is some even this is how bad it is. Even when Trump was in office and Bill Barr was in office, they didn't even charge him. If there was something there, I mean, if there was, I mean, because my God, Trump charged people that weren't even guilty. I don't know how many of these cases that he brought against former FBI or whatever that they didn't even make it to court. The grand jury returned a no fault bill or whatever. They wouldn't even charge him, and they were trying to figure out what they're doing. The fucking judge finally had to tell them, look, you guys either got to shit or get off the pot. You either got to fucking, I didn't quite word it that way, but he could let them know, you either got to let them go. You just got to drop this, or you got to get another grand jury and sit them down and get going. You can't just hold this indefinitely over him. And so they dropped the charges. And and again, they put those trials out there, and they didn't even have enough to do that. And I mean, those were ones that were the grand jury would not indict. Uh, there was literally nothing there, and they even brought those, and they didn't bring this one on Hunter. And now it seems to me that it was real close to when these bills were coming up, these amendments, and again, I don't know if Menendez. It could be Menendez is innocent, but I gotta admit, the evidence doesn't look good. But hey, Bob Lazar Look at what they did to him. They fucking erase his whole history. They can probably make or erase anything, but it looks bad. But they didn't care. They didn't care. This is stuff that's been going on for years. It's been going on since it's been going on since at least Trump's been in office. It's like somebody was just saving it as a chit card, a little chit, uh, to use when they needed to fucking go after Congress or something. And it looks that way with Biden's son. It's like, oh my God, we got a president who's going to out us, and we're going to have wow, let's throw his son in jail. And the fact that they're still going on those people, I would say means that they're not giving up. And I really do, because I mean, if they got to temporarily put some people in jail, they got to do it. They just got to do it so we can get the truth on this shit. Well, anyways, hope you had a good day. Uh, and I might be redoing one JFK because I want to put it up today. I got some videos up on the YouTube channel, and the audio wasn't that good, so I might redo. I've been listening to them because especially now with this problem I've been having with the audio it doesn't seem to be going on anymore, but there was a while there where I'd go to put the headsets on, and I'd have to cycle it a couple times to get it clear, but it's suddenly clear, everything's good, but oh, peace out, and I hope if you're watching this on YouTube down the road, just hit that like button, maybe leave a comment. If there's a story you'd really like me to research, you can always ask. Maybe I can find out something. Maybe it'll be something I can do. Maybe it's something I can't really do, but I can maybe do it in a stream where I'm just bullshitting. But I might not have enough material on it to do a whole stream on it. But I can put it in one of those streams where I talk about several subjects, or I'm just wandering around on shit. But ooh. But if you're seeing it, yeah, just hit that like button, maybe leave a comment, and peace out and have a good day.